picture this, all right? It's 1925. A man is sitting in a maximum security Texas prison,
Right.
and he's serving 30 years for murder. Now, the governor of Texas at the time is a guy who actively campaigned on a promise to never, ever issue a pardon. Like, that was his whole brand.
Exactly. No pardons, zero exceptions.
Right. So this inmate, he doesn't call a lawyer. He doesn't, file some lengthy appeal. He writes a song.
Yeah.
He sings it, and he literally walks out a free man.
I mean, it sounds like a Hollywood script, right? But it is entirely real.
It's crazy.
That inmate was Huddy William Ledbetter, who pretty much the whole world knows universally as In Belly.
Which brings us to our mission for you on today's deep dive. We are going to explore the story of a man whose music became this hidden backbone of modern folk and rock.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we were talking about the artist who inspired everyone from the Beatles to Nirvana, and yet, his actual life was this incredibly complex web of brutal violence and a relentless myth-making and just staggering musical genius in a really deeply racially divided America.
Yeah, and to unpack all of this, we are looking at a really fascinating stack of sources for you today. We've got his expansive discography, obviously, but also census records and prison documents that actually strip away some of the myth.
Which is so needed with him.
Right, because we also have historical accounts of his lasting impact, and it gives us this comprehensive look at a life that honestly often feels way more like a tall tale than actual recorded history.
For sure. So let's start by looking at how he built the foundation of that talent. Because, before Lead Belly was this global musical legend, he was just a young man trying to survive in the Deep South.
Yeah.
A place where his immense talent and his incredibly quick temper were just constantly colliding.
Yeah, so he was born in Louisiana, and the sources actually debate whether it was 1888 or 1889, but he was raised in Texas. And his introduction to music wasn't the guitar you might expect.
Right.
It was actually an accordion.
Wait, an accordion?
Yeah, given to him by his uncle. They called it a windjammer. So you really have to imagine a young Ledbetter squeezing out these heavy, breathy, reedy chords,
Wow.
learning how to basically command a whole room with just the push and pull of air. And he masters it quickly. By 1903, he's already working as what they called a musicianer.
Okay, so picture yourself walking into St. Paul's Bottoms in Shreveport, Louisiana around 1903. This was the notorious red light district, Fannin Street.
Oh, yeah, a rough area.
Very. You have saloons, dance halls, gambling, and just danger everywhere. And he's right in the middle of it, absorbing all of that chaotic energy.
Yeah, and that environment comes with a huge cost. In 1915, he actually escapes a Texas chain gang.
Just casually escapes a chain gang.
Right. And then by 1918, he's living under the alias Walter Boyd, and he gets convicted of murdering a relative named Will Stafford. So he's sent to a Texas prison to serve a 30-year sentence.
And this is where we get to that unbelievable opening moment. Because while he's in prison, he uses his music to entertain the guards and the inmates.
Yeah, and after serving a minimum of 7 years, he does the unthinkable. He writes a song directly to Texas Governor Pat Morris Neff.
The guy who promised no pardons.
The very same. And Governor Neff was a man of really intense religious convictions, so Ledbetter brilliantly calibrates his performance. He appeals to those specific religious beliefs through his lyrics.
That is so smart.
It's genius. And it works so well that Neff actually starts bringing guests to the prison on Sunday picnics.
You're kidding?
No, literally Sunday picnics, just to hear Ledbetter perform. And then finally, he issues that impossible pardon in 1925.
I look at this and I just see music functioning as a kind of sonic currency for him.
Oh, I like that. Sonic currency.
Yeah, like it wasn't just art to him, right? It was a literal survival tool.
Yeah.
It bought him protection on the inside. It bought him favor with the guards. And ultimately, I mean, it literally purchased his physical freedom.
Absolutely. And, it was also during this era of incarceration and survival that the famous nickname emerged. Lead Belly.
Lead Belly, yeah.
Though, as with pretty much everything in his life, the origins of that are tangled in a bunch of conflicting myths.
Of course they are.
Right. So some sources claim it was a play on his last name, Ledbetter, combined with his physical toughness. Others say he survived a buckshot wound to the stomach.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then another theory points to a massive tolerance for homemade moonshine.
See, my personal favorite comes from the bluesman Big Bill Broonzy.
Oh, the Shade story.
Yes. So Broonzy claimed the nickname was actually deeply sarcastic. According to him, Ledbetter had this tendency to lazily lie around in the shade on the chain gang. as his stomach was weighted down by lead.
While everyone else is doing the back-breaking labor.
Exactly. Just completely avoiding the work.
I mean, that one feels very human, doesn't it? But look, Leadbelly's sonic currency got him out of Texas. But it couldn't buy him a new temperament.
Right.
That volatile mix of genius and rage is exactly what brings him to his darkest place yet. Because in 1930, he gets convicted of attempted homicide after a stabbing, and he's sent to Louisiana's notorious Angola Penitentiary.
Which is just a brutal place. But this next stint behind bars wouldn't just result in his freedom, it would actually introduce him to the entire world.
Yes. So the year is 1933, and you have folklorists, John Lomax and his teenage son, Alan, arriving at Angola.
Right.
They are traveling the South for the Library of Congress, trying to preserve traditional music, and they're carrying these portable aluminum disc recorders.
Wait, portable aluminum discs? Like they're literally cutting metal?
Yes. You have to imagine the physical effort of this. They are cutting grooves directly into blank metal discs to capture sound. And they hear Ledbetter's vibrant tenor voice and this just massive encyclopedic repertoire of songs, and they are completely blown away.
So they record him. And then they return in 1934 to record even more. And then in August of 1934, Ledbetter is released.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, Ledbetter and the Lomaxes launched this massive public relations campaign. I mean, they fiercely promote this highly sensational myth that Leadbelly had sung his way out of prison a second time by sending a record to the Louisiana governor.
Which is a great story, but the historical reality, according to state records anyway, is much less cinematic.
Yeah, what do the sources say actually happened?
He was simply released because he had served his minimum sentence with good behavior.
Wow.
Yeah. A prison official even later confirmed that the singing had absolutely nothing to do with the release. But, the myth was already in motion.
So why did audiences eat this up so readily? Like, it makes me wonder, were the Lomaxes genuinely trying to preserve traditional music, or were they intentionally crafting this highly marketable, romanticized, sort of noble, savage narrative for wealthy northern audiences?
It's a great question, and the sources reveal it's really a messy mix of both. The Lomaxes genuinely believed in preserving the cultural value of the music. They cared about that. Yeah. But they also needed to sell books. They needed to secure funding.
Right, they had bills to pay.
Exactly. And they understood the sociology of the 1930s perfectly. Northern, wealthy audiences during the Great Depression, they really craved this raw, untamed narrative.
It's pure escapism.
Totally. The story of a singing convict from the brutal Deep South was a potent mix of escapism and, frankly, exploitation. And it just captivated the Northern press.
So they take their act on the road. They arrive in New York City on New Year's Day, 1935, and the press completely devours the convict angle. I mean, Time magazine makes an actual newsreel about him.
Yeah.
But this collision of Southern folk traditions with Northern commercialism, it turns out to be a disaster.
A total disaster. He has his first recording sessions with the American Record Corporation. They record 53 takes.
Which is a lot.
It's a ton, but the label totally misunderstands his appeal. They decide to release only a few of his blues tracks, completely ignoring the folk songs that he would later be world famous for.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's a massive commercial flop. Leadbelly attains fame, but no fortune.
And to make matters worse, his relationship with John Lomax just turns toxic. The sources show Lomax is incredibly paternalistic. He pays Ledbetter his earnings in these tiny, humiliating installments.
Right.
Claiming that, if he hands over a lump sum, Leadbelly will just drink it all away.
Which is incredibly insulting. And that control leads to a really bitter split. Ledbetter actually successfully sues Lomax for his full earnings and a release from his management contract.
Good for him.
Yeah. But even after winning his independence from Lomax, the media still controls his narrative. The sources detail this 1937 piece in Life magazine that is deeply sensationalized and overtly racist.
I read about that. It honestly reads like a 1930s reality TV script.
Yeah.
They weren't selling a musician, they were selling a scandalous caricature.
Exactly. The framing was entirely degrading. Life ran the article with the headline, "Leadbelly, Bad Nigger Makes Good Minstrel."
Jesus. Just right there in print.
Right there in print. And they published these close-up photos of his hands playing the guitar, accompanied by a caption reminding readers that these hands once killed a man.
Oh, my God.
They even photographed him sitting on grain sacks just to play up this uneducated rural image.
But Leadbelly pivots, right?
Yep.
Free from Lomax's management and that degrading convict novelty act, he finally finds an audience that appreciates him on his own terms.
Yes.
The surging New York folk scene. He starts befriending writers like Richard Wright, who champions him in The Daily Worker, and musicians like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger.
And this environment finally allows his musical technique to take center stage rather than his rap sheet. Lead Belly styled himself the king of the 12-string guitar.
Yeah, the Stella 12-string.
Right. He played this unusually large Stella 12-string, and you might be wondering how one acoustic guitar can sound so massive.
Sounds like a whole band.
It does, and it's because of the guitar's long scale and the heavy strings. The tension was immense. So to prevent the neck from literally warping or snapping in half, he had to tune the guitar down significantly.
Which changes the entire physics of the sound.
Completely. Think of a pianist's left hand keeping a driving, independent bass rhythm while the right hand plays the melody.
Right.
Lead Belly did exactly that on one instrument. His thumb pick acted as the left hand on those heavy, down-tuned bass strings, picking out these tricky walking bass lines. And this freed his fingers to pick the melody at the same time.
That is so technically difficult.
It's insanely difficult. It gave his guitar this rich, heavy, piano-like sound. Pete Seeger was so captivated by it that he would literally just follow Lead Belly around, watching his hands, trying to decode the technique.
That's amazing. And he also incorporated this signature vocalization, right? That sharp ha grunt between verses. You hear it distinctly on songs like Take This Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he explained that it mimics the sound of a heavy hammer falling. He was pulling this directly from the work chants of Southern Railroad section workers.
The Gandy dancers.
Of the Gandy dancers, exactly.
Yeah.
Who used that exact rhythmic grunt to coordinate the physical toll of swinging those massive hammers in unison.
So he was taking pure, unadulterated working-class survival and elevating it to high art.
Yeah.
And, speaking of survival, there is a really surprising historical footnote in the sources regarding his recording of Scottsboro Boys in 1938.
Oh, right.
So the song is about 9 black teenagers falsely accused of a crime in Alabama. And in a spoken afterword to the song, Lead Belly advises his listeners to be careful when traveling through the state. He says they, quote, best stay woke, keep their eyes open.
I mean, that is possibly the earliest audio recording of the phrase stay woke.
It's incredible.
It originated right there as literal, practical advice for Black Americans to stay alert to physical danger in the Jim Crow South. But looking at the sources, he seems way more focused on sheer survival than making any grand political statements. Commentators often labeled him as apolitical, especially compared to his communist friends like Woody Guthrie.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, can we really call him a political figure if he was just trying to get paid and stay alive?
See, I think that's a vital distinction. He may not have been an ideologue holding rallies, right? But you don't coin a phrase like stay woke or write a song like the Bourgeois Blues.
Well, that song is hard.
It does. It directly attacks the systemic racism and housing discrimination he faced in Washington, D.C. You don't write that without profound political consciousness.
That's true.
His lived experience made his music inherently political, even if his primary goal was just survival.
Tragically, though, despite finding his artistic voice, he never sees massive financial success in his lifetime. He's diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, just as he's starting a European tour in 1949.
Yeah.
And he passes away in December of that year.
It's heartbreaking because his influence was like a delayed fuse explosive. He died before the blast. But within a year of his death, the shockwaves began to literally reshape global music.
Oh, entirely.
Like in 1950, the Weavers took his arrangement of Goodnight Irene to #1 on the U.S. charts.
And then it crossed the Atlantic. His recordings sparked the UK skiffle craze in the 1950s.
Right.
Which was basically this DIY music movement where British kids played folk and blues on washboards, tea-chest basses, cheap guitars, just because they couldn't afford real instruments. I mean, George Harrison famously stated, no Lead Belly, no Beatles.
Which is quite the endorsement. And over in the U.S., you've got Bob Dylan. He credited Lead Belly's song Cotton Fields with entirely changing his trajectory. Dylan said hearing that record was, quote, like an explosion went off.
Jump to modern rock, and you have Ram Jam's massive 1977 hit adaptation of his 1939 recording Black Betty.
Oh, such a huge track.
Massive. And you cannot talk about 90s rock without mentioning Kurt Cobain's iconic MTV Unplugged performance.
Of course.
Cobain covered Where Did You Sleep Last Night?, which is Lead Belly called In the Pines.
Yeah.
And he introduced this haunting raw style to a whole new generation.
It's legendary. And, amidst all these famous adaptations, there is one original song that perfectly captures the tightrope Lead Belly had to walk.
Wait, what?
He wrote a song about the sinking of the Titanic, and in it, he highlights a cultural myth that the champion black boxer, Jack Johnson, was denied passage on the doomed ship because of his race.
Right. Now, the sources do note this is factually inaccurate. Johnson was denied passage on a different ship for being black, not the Titanic.
Right, but the myth resonated deeply in the community.
Absolutely.
Culturally, it was a really powerful statement. The song includes the lyric, "The captain," he says, "I ain't haulin' no coal."
Wow.
Yeah, but Ledbetter later noted that he had to completely self-censor and leave that passage out entirely whenever he performed in front of white audiences.
He couldn't even sing his own lyrics.
Exactly. He lived his whole life having to constantly navigate and suppress his own truth for the white gaze.
So when you look at this list of artists he inspired, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Nirvana, I have to ask you, is it safe to say Lead Belly is the most influential musician that the average person on the street knows the least about?
Oh, I think that is beyond safe to say. His DNA is woven into the fundamental structure of almost everything we listen to today.
We are talking about a man born in the 19th century Deep South. He navigated actual chain gangs, multiple murder convictions, profound systemic racism, only to end up shaping the 20th century global musical landscape.
And it leaves you with something really important to consider, I think.
Yeah.
When you listen to a polished rock cover of a Lead Belly song today, are you truly connecting with the raw, brutal reality of the world he survived?
Right.
Or have we somehow sanitized his struggle into easy listening entertainment? The real challenge for us today is to separate the myth he was forced to play into from the man who actually lived it.
That is perfectly said. Think about that next time you hear one of his melodies on the radio. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive, and we really hope it encourages you to seek out the crackling, original recordings of the king of the 12-string guitar. Go listen to the sonic currency that bought a man his freedom. Keep your ears open, and we'll catch you on the next one.